Hi everyone, it's Kate from the Fold Line. I am back this week with the Sew Down. This is our almost monthly, not quite monthly, roundup of stuff from the community, stuff that we've seen, listened to, read, maybe sewn. Haven't sewn anything this month, but stuff from the sewing community that we thought you guys would find interesting. I hope you are all having a lovely Easter weekend. It's really nice to have 4 days off. I think Rachel and I might even get like the full weekend off, which is almost unheard of. So I will hopefully doing a little bit of sewing and also heading down to Dorset to see my mum, which is very exciting, except that she won't do an Easter egg hunt for me, which I think is really unfair. I know I'm 35, but I still want an Easter egg hunt, and she just asked if I could do it for myself, which you can't do. Anyway, so I'm going to get going. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about, each time I do this, I do a little kind of, I guess like an indie pattern designer highlight where I talk about a company that you might not have heard of. So this company is called the Sewing Revival. It's run by Janine. She's based in New Zealand. She specialises in sort of, well, she's got quite a lot of women's wear patterns, but she's also got quite a lot of almost like kids patterns, but ages sort of 6 to 16, which I actually found quite interesting because being a massive sewing pattern nerd, there aren't a huge amount of sewing patterns for teenagers, and they're definitely worth a look if you're interested and you're making pattern or even teaching your teenager or kid how to sew. This is a really nice way to do it. So she's got some really nice patterns, but I'm going to talk to you about a couple of patterns that she's got which I really like, women's wear patterns that I thought you guys would dig too. So the first one to talk to you about is the heron dress. Sorry, my laptop is right here. This is like a really classic shirt dress. It's really interesting. So it's got elastic around the neckline, I'm pretty sure from the line drawing, and it's also got gathering around the middle of the sort of arm, which creates a sort of kind of bell sleeve. It's actually a very simple construction, this dress, but I think it's really interesting, and I loved the sample that she's made because it's in linen. I think this is perfect for summer. There's not a huge amount of shaping. It cinches in with a tie at the waist, so actually this is very beginner friendly, this pattern. The only difficult, well, the most difficult part will be encasing the elastic and in the sort of sleeve, but I've seen her instructions and they're really good actually. They're really kind of hold your hand, take you through each step. So yeah, it's a really nice pattern. The other one that I thought was really interesting is, it's called the Co Pant. That's definitely not how you say it, but anyway, let's just move on from that. This is a really simple trouser pattern, and I was looking at it thinking, oh, it's almost very simple. So it's got a big kind of quite a deep curved waistband. It's got just no darts at the front, darts at the back. But what is interesting about it is that you sew it with a stretch fabric and they just pull on. So they're not, so there's no fastenings. There's no, I mean, there's no side zip, there's nothing, you just pull them on. So I thought these, if you work in an office, would be actually a really good like work trouser, because you look smart but actually they're really comfortable. You do need to sew something with, it needs to have like 5% stretch in it, so at least 5% elastane or lycra or anything, that stretchy element. But like, how nice. But you could also do it, if you wanted to, you could do it in a ponte as well, so they'd be like proper sort of, you know, like joggers. But yeah, I just thought that was quite an interesting one. And then they've got nice things like, there's a kingfisher top, which is like a really simple sort of nice t-shirt pattern with raglan sleeves. Yeah, they've got really nice patterns and they're definitely worth checking out. We will pop links to everything that we talk about down below so you can go and have a look. Next up was Rachel and I went to Joel and Son earlier this month, and I'm going to insert some photos of the shops while I talk about it, because I think it's easier to kind of explain and show you the kind of nutsness of this shop. So anyone who hasn't heard of them, they are one of the longest running fabric shops in London. They've got a royal warrant. Is it called a royal warrant? I think it is. Which means that they provide fabric for the Queen or the royal family. They've been going for a long time. Family run business, set up by the dad, the sons, or set up by, I think it's the third generation now of running it. So it's all a family run business. But the fabrics, if you haven't been and you're in London, you just have to go. I can't believe that Rachel and I had never been there before, actually. It's quite shameful. It's just incredible. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying the fabrics in there are really expensive, very, very expensive. But if you've got a special occasion or you really want to go and treat yourself, this is the place to go, because the service there is really good. The people who work there have worked there for sort of 15, 20 years. They know exactly what they're talking about. It is incredible. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. They've got, you know, an entire boucle section. So imagine that sort of Chanel tweed fabric. They've got a whole entire section of that. They've got the most insane suiting range. I mean, silk, it's just totally incredible. And it's just, you just have to go and have a look around. I mean, it's just wonderful. And they've got all these fabrics, ex-designer fabrics, and stuff that you just can't find anywhere else. I know that they do a lot of fabrics for the films, they do a lot of stuff for theatre, they do a lot of stuff for Fashion Week, so they're really sort of top end fabrics, but it's worth going and having a look. And if you've got, like, you know, if you're making something special like your wedding dress, they've got a beautiful lace section. Yeah, it was really, really inspiring place. So definitely go and have a look, because we were like blown away by the quantity and quality of the stuff they've got there. So yeah, that is our little adventure out this month that was really good. I've got a little sewing tool that I want to talk to you about. Our mate Barbara, aka Rocking Stitch, has created this really fantastic sewing tool, and I wanted to show it to you because, well, it pretty much broke the internet when it was released. She sold out of the entire batch in, I think it was like a day or so, or half a day. And so she's got another load in, and I've been waiting to talk to you about it, but I wanted to wait until they were back in stock, because if you want one, you wouldn't have been able to buy one, which wouldn't have been very useful, would it? So I'm just thinking this is actually going to be really hard to show you because it's clear. So this sewing gauge lets me come in with it. So, cool thing about this, so it's got loads and loads of different options depending on what you're making. I think you could use this not only as a dressmaker but as a quilter as well. So it's got, if I come, oh, is that, can you see? Oh. I might have to insert a picture actually, that might be, but basically this little sewing gauge has got kind of marks along here, so you can kind of pick whatever depending on what you're doing. So if you're sewing a standard seam or you're measuring a hem, there's all these different measurements. So there's 3 centimetre, there's 1.2, there's 1 centimetre, there's 2 centimetre, all on here. So it's really useful little tool. If I'm being totally honest, when I first, because Barbara sent me one and said, oh, what do you think? And I was like, I don't know actually if I'm gonna really use this when I'm sewing, because I'm quite, you know, I can do quite a bit by eye now. But actually I had something I was making, so I decided to get it out and see if I actually used it while I was sewing. And actually it's so handy just to have this little thing like sitting, it's like sitting next to my sewing machine, got it out, tested it out, you know, I knew that I had like a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, so I just had it here, just checked it, and yeah, it feels really nice as well. The other thing, it comes in this little really cute little sort of cork holster, so when you finish using it you can pop it back in. I've got it up here, I can't remember how much it is. It's £9.50, so it's not very expensive, but it's actually really handy. I've used it quite a lot. yeah, so that's on my little sewing tool recommendation this month. Next up, I've got a couple of community challenges that are going on in the world of sewing. The first one is called So Brave. This is starting in May. Oh, sorry, my voice went really high then. May? It's starting in May. I really like the idea of this. The idea is basically pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and tackling something that intimidates you, because let's be honest, the longer we sew, the more I find I've become more and more intimidated by things I shouldn't become intimidated by. So it's actually just biting the bullet and freaking making the thing. So I thought this was a really, really nice thing to happen in May. And it's on Instagram, there's a hashtag which is So Brave Socialists, and I just thought it was a really great idea. I think I should take this on. And this sort of ties in with my next community kind of thing that's going on. Obviously, anyone who is in the world of sewing has probably heard about Me Made May. It is starting again. I was thinking in my head, when does it start? It starts in May. Starting in May, it is... it's now in its, I think it's like 5th year or something, and Zoe, who is the woman who set it all up and manages it, I saw her at an event last week and we were chatting about how exciting it was, and I know a lot of people have used it to post pictures of what they wear every day, but actually I just wanted to sort of highlight that the concept of Me Made May is not necessarily about taking a picture and putting it on Instagram every single day. It's not about that. It's actually about picking what your challenge is going to be for the month of May. It can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be wearing a handmade wardrobe every day. It can be whatever you want it to be, and just giving yourself a bit of a challenge. So I thought about it on the way home after I'd spoken to Zoe, and my challenge is to sew something, is to create time to sew during my working week. That is my challenge in May. So even if it's 15 minutes a couple of times a week, that's my challenge to myself. So I've now said it out loud to you, so it actually has to happen. Because I just don't sew anymore. If I'm being brutally honest with everyone, I just don't have time, and I do have time, I just have to make the time. So that is what I'm going to do in May. I'm going to make myself do it so that it becomes part of my week, and then I am then back into sewing, which is what I love doing, but I don't make it a priority, which is what I'm going to do. So that's my Me Made May. Right, on to stuff. So I was thinking about Easter weekend. I'm sure there's a lot of you that are at some point over the weekend going on a train, getting in the car, walking somewhere, travelling around to see people, friends, family, whatever. So I usually put stuff to read and stuff to listen to, but I've gone big on the stuff to listen to because I figure if you're out and about, you might want to stick a podcast in. So, things to talk about, to listen to. So the first one I've got is, if you haven't listened to it, Juliet, who won the Great British Sewing Bee, was interviewed on Women's Hour. Oh gosh, when was it? I think it was the day after the show ended, so it was a couple of weeks ago. But it was a really nice interview, and it was nice to hear her talking, and it's really nice that someone from our sewing community was on Women's Hour. I think I was quite excited by that. So it's a really nice interview. It's definitely worth a listen to. It's only like sort of 10 or 15 minutes long, so it's not a huge time commitment. Yeah, it's definitely worth listening to. Next up, I've got 2 episodes. Love to Sew, which I'm sure a lot of you listen to, one of my favourite sewing podcasts, if not my favourite sewing podcast. There are 2 episodes which I just totally loved, and if you haven't listened to them yet, I would really recommend them. So the first one is the Megan Nielsen interview, where she talks about sustainable sewing. This was really interesting. I learnt loads. I'm a massive fan of her patterns, but I really found what she said really interesting about sustainable making. And she's also got this really great series called Sustainable Sewing Series, where she runs through each one as a different theme. So there's like organic fabrics, let me find, oh, I've lost them now, it's on my laptop, sourcing fabric, that sort of thing. So it's really interesting, and I went, after I listened to the episode, I went and read all of her stuff, which was really good. So that, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I'd highly recommend it. It's really, really good. I found it really inspiring. She's really nice to listen to. And the other one from Love to Sew, which I all think we should listen to, is the one, was it this week or was it last week, with Elisa Lex from By Hand London. I really enjoyed that. I loved hearing about the history of By Hand London, the pattern company, and Elisa Lex was really open and honest about her business, the way it's changed and evolved over the years. And yeah, it takes quite a lot of courage, I think, to be really that honest about your business and the highs and the lows. And yeah, she's just a really nice person to listen to. She's really interesting, speaks really eloquently. Yeah, it's a really, really nice listen. So next up, this was recommended by the Maker's Atelier to me, and it's quite Marmitey, this podcast, but I quite enjoy it. So it's called Band Apart, and it's a phone conversation each week with Rebecca and Beatrice. So Rebecca she teaches at the Courthold Institute of Art in London, and Beatrice is the curator at the Museum of London. So really interesting women, have really cool jobs, and each week they have a phone conversation and they're talking about different topics, and some of them, they kind of vary. I've gone through it and picked kind of topics that kind of interested me, but they're really nice to listen to because they're just, yeah, that it's like sitting in on a phone it is sitting in on a phone conversation. I really enjoyed it. They're not sort of megally fast-paced moving. They're quite nice if you're in the kitchen cooking and you can just have it on in the background. They've got very calming voices as well. So I thought, yeah, it's definitely worth giving it a try. And then, this is a bit of a random one, but I just wanted to put it in. It has nothing to do with sewing, but I just loved it. So I don't know if any of you have ever listened to the food programme on BBC4. It's on Saturday mornings at sort of like 11 o'clock. I'm quite a nerd, but I loved this. I love it. It's one of my favourite podcasts that I listen to. There's an episode that is so wonderful that I just think you have to go and listen to it. So it is called The Secret Life of Spaghetti, and it's about the history of spaghetti bolognese in the UK, because you will learn that it is not a traditional Italian. My boyfriend works in an Italian restaurant, so obviously I became aware of this. It's not an Italian dish at all. It's a sort of anyway, you know what I mean. It's just such a lovely episode. There's really kind of nice slice of social history. It's just so good, and I don't want to tell you any more about it. Just go and listen to it. I think that's my favourite thing I've listened to in a while. I just found it really, really interesting. So that's definitely worth a listen to. Last podcast, and oh my goodness, I've just seen how long I've been yabbering on for. I'm going to let you go soon. Last podcast, not sewing related, but I really like it. It's called The Great Indoors. It is about interior design. It's got a lady called Sophie Robinson, who is a quite well-known interior designer, and a really fantastic blogger called Kate, and her blog is Mad About the House. It's them talking about different parts of the house, how to think about paint colours, and if you're interested in interior design and interested in like jazzing up your house a little bit, this is definitely worth checking out. So anyway, I'm going to end this. I'm going to let you get back to your Easter eggs, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back soon with another video.